Welcome to the Beantown Blitz podcast. I'm here with Jake Mackey. I'm Chris Frangolini. Mack, it's the NBA draft lottery day. Big day for the Celtics, who shouldn't even be in the lottery, but thanks to the 2013 Brooklyn horrific trade, the Celtics will potentially, hopefully, land in the top three. They got a 46.9% to land in the top three. What do the Celtics do if that pick does indeed land in the top three?
Trade. You got to trade at all costs. I might not sound like, the prototypical NBA fan who wants to be realistic and develop these young guys, but I want to get these guys out of here. I think we've come to the point with this Celtics rebuild where they're at the point where they need to build with. They got the whole chemistry thing. They got the, young guys are starting to develop. They got the coach. They hit on the right trades. Now they got to hit on the big trade. Get a top three pick, whether it's Buddy Hield, Brandon Ingram, Ben Simmons, trade it to, Chicago if you can, get Jimmy Butler, trade it to maybe Indiana, get Paul George. One of these big names. They need to trade it at all costs.
Yeah, it's hard not to agree with you just because if you look, this will be Brad Stevens' fourth year as the Celtics coach in the NBA. Each year they've improved, second straight year making it to the playoffs. This roster works as this blue chip, not a very talented roster. It's just kind of the chemistry's there. They like playing together. They get up for Brad Stevens. I think because you're so the rebuild was so expedited that you are almost forced to trade this pick because I don't know if a Ben Simmons, who in most NBA, lottery mock simulators goes first, especially to ESPN's mock. I don't know if he can help right away, even though he's a good rebounder. He's kind of a point forward. I just don't think the shot's there just yet. He's mediocre at that at best. I don't know if a guy like that can change the outlook of your franchise, especially where I guess now it's fair to say that we expect postseason play from the Celtics, right? That's a fair expectation, being that they back-to-back postseason berths. I think that's fair to expect. I'm not saying he'll be a scrub and they'll have to put him down in Maine, but I think if you can lure a Chicago or an Indiana, I think you gotta pull the trigger.
Yeah, 100%. I think, like you said, playoffs are expected now. To me personally, I think you got to win a playoff series. No one expected them to beat Cleveland last year, but I thought there was a pretty solid chance they were going to beat Atlanta. I thought they would beat Atlanta, and to lose in 6 games and get blown out in 3 of those games is pretty disappointing. I think you need to really build upon. You have your one star, who I believe is an NBA star, in Isaiah Thomas. You need to start putting legitimate pieces around him. These core guys like the Jay Crowders, the Avery Bradleys, the Kelly Olynyk's, the Amir Johnsons. They're nice and everything. They're fun to watch, up until, mid-April. But once the playoffs start, they don't stand a chance. You need to get a legitimate NBA impact player on this team.
As a fan of the Boston Celtics, I can say that I love Isaiah Thomas. I think a lot of Celtics fans do. I think that Danny Ainge has him in his back pocket as the first piece to move if indeed a Jimmy Butler or a Paul George was able to get lured here. For some reason, I think because Danny Ainge is so good in getting a returning on his investment and then flipping that, I think Isaiah would be great remaining as a Celtic. If you, as you said, if they are able to put the pieces around him. But I think Danny Ainge is also not afraid to move Isaiah, which is your best pure scorer and probably your best player.
I just think if you trade Isaiah, it's got to be a grand slam play. Like, it can't be anybody, small. Like, even I think if you have Paul George or Jimmy Butler, I wouldn't even be willing to trade, because I think if you just trade Isaiah for one of those guys, you're back to square one with one big player. You don't have 2. I think you got to get 2, and then that'll learn up maybe a third free agent that you can get and get that big 3 to build around again. I think if you're going to deal Isaiah, it's got to be for something really big. Like, I'm just got to throw a name like a James Harden or something like that.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I guess if you trade your best player for someone else's best player, I guess that could be looked at as a wash, which seems like what you said. You're not really – I think Jimmy Butler and Paul George are both better than Isaiah Thomas, but I see what you're saying. All you're doing is swapping one star for the next star. is Jimmy Butler or Paul George that much better than Isaiah that automatically they're a finals contender? I
No.
guess probably not, but I think can a player like that, Isaiah Thomas, can he alone lure a superstar? Can a Jimmy Butler lure a superstar? So it comes down to that.
I think if you have those two, that's really the only chance of getting a superstar. I don't think any one player is going to bring one superstar, and you got to have a multitude of guys because these NBA players got to have everything set out for them. They got to go to all these franchises. They got to go to a guy like Danny Ainge or Wick Grossbeck. They got to lay out their whole plan for them to come to Boston or wherever they want to go. They got to have their assets in place. It's just it's an annoying process for these NBA free agents, but you got to have more than one guy. It's just how it is. It's always a big three at least in the NBA now.
Everyone's really talked about, as I said in the opening, 46.9% chance in the top to get into the top three. Not many people are saying, talking about the 53.1% that it lands outside the top three.
Ugh.
So what happens if history repeats itself? They missed on like Tim Duncan, Tracy McGrady. What happens if it lands 5 or 6? What do you do?
I mean, I think it's pretty much a toss-up. I'd say take it, I guess, if there's a guy you really like. I probably couldn't even tell you anybody in the 5 through 6. Buddy Hield is being talked about 5 through 6. I know I thought he'd be in the top 3, but a lot of people are mocking him in like the 5, 6 category. If he's there, if you can get him, I take him, and then I trade somebody like Avery Bradley to get something for him, and then you have Buddy Hield, who I think could be a really good player. But if he's not available, I mean, just trade it for whatever you can get, a veteran player, because I just think the building process might just take a while. And if you want to take the pick, you're gonna have to go. You're going into another 6-7 year rebuild period again.
I don't know if you quite call that a rebuild, but it's definitely not improving the roster now because they need a superstar. And if they land in the 5-6 spot, I personally think Buddy Hield should go top 3. Just because I really like him. He can defend. Probably needs to gain a little bit of weight. He's small. But if you land 5-6, there's guys like Chris Dunn. There's really nothing. Jamal Murray, maybe, if he falls up. There's nothing really that enticing to, warrant the pick. But I don't know if you do land 5 or 6. I don't know if that has any value to be traded. So I guess you'd probably have to roll with the pick. But that does it. Oh, he's back.
I'm back.
Okay, all right. Little technology at its finest. But as I was saying, if the pick does land 5 or 6 or later, I don't think anyone is going to want to trade for that. I don't think it's very
Yep.
It doesn't have value or impact with any teams. So I think if you land that late, you probably have to roll with the pick and look in terms of maybe a role player off the bench or a depth player or someone who can probably just develop where you're not asking a lot of right now. But that's not ideal because you want to win now. They're set up to win now with this roster. And I think it's very important that Evan Turner remains a Celtic in the offseason. I hope they can sign him over the summer. I think if the dollars are right, he would take a slight cut to stay here.
He did say that, I think, 2 days ago. I think that is one thing that's going to be predicated off what happens tonight. If you can get in the top 2 or 3 and, deal this for a big-name guy, I think Evan Turner, he's gone. But if you fall back to 5-6, this might work out for you. You keep somebody like Evan Turner because he's probably one of your best chances to help you win now. I think he's probably the second best player on this team right now behind Isaiah Thomas. But I would like Evan Turner to not be on this team because that means we're going to get a bigger name player. But if he is,
no. But if you can retain Isaiah and listen, if you can, even if you get one piece, let's just say that piece is Paul George from Indiana. If you're able to move him here with limited, maybe the pick, and I guess you'd probably have to send maybe a Marcus Smart, or you'd probably have to chip in a little bit more than just the pick. But if you can have a superstar, we'll just call him a superstar, with Isaiah, Crowder, maybe Avery Bradley, and maybe Evan Turner, I think that's a decent, core group of guys. And then you add, small pieces off the bench and veteran minimums and stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good nucleus to build around. I think you could make the next leap to, Eastern Conference semifinals and Eastern Conference finals. I just don't think you're at the contender point just yet, but it's a good start.
It's 11:21 here on the East Coast. Just a mere 8.5 hours before the balls hopefully fall in their favor this year. Hopefully it's not like other years past.
It's about time.
Beantown Blitz, yeah, it's about time. For Beantown Blitz, I'm Chris Frangley, Jake Mackey. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and hit up the blog.